It's finally that day that we've all been waiting for, and that's time to plant warm season crops. So go ahead and get your tomatoes and your peppers and get them out in the garden. But before you go, let us show you a few little tips here. So we've got a couple of tomato plants that we're going to plant, and this year we're going to plant them against a cattle panel to help trellis them and hold them up. We've got a couple of different tomatoes here that I want to bring up some things if you're shopping still, what to look for in your tomatoes. There's a couple of things. So one, you can either go with a hybrid such as the Celebrity that we have here. And the thing about a hybrid is a lot of times they have disease resistance built into them. And so you can look on the back of the label, like this particular one, Celebrity, it says disease resistant and it shows VFNTMV. So it's got some numbers and some letters on there, and all of that means that it's more resistant to nematodes, fusarium, and other diseases that tomatoes might get. So that's going to be a better tomato as you go into the growing season. Now, a lot of people don't want hybrids, and that's completely fine. You can go with heirloom varieties. Cherokee Purple is a very popular heirloom variety. A lot of people think heirlooms have more flavor to them, and some of them do, such as Cherokee Purple. Now, the thing is because it's an heirloom, it doesn't have that disease resistance built into it. So you're going to have to be a little more cautious. If you know you have soil nematodes, then that's going to be a problem for certain tomatoes without that resistance. Now, also on your label, look and see if it says indeterminate or determinate. Cherokee Purple here is indeterminate, while we have Celebrity, which is a determinate, and also Roma, which is a determinate. Determinate and indeterminate mean its growth habit. So a determinate tomato is going to grow so big and produce all at once, whereas an indeterminate is going to continue to grow and continue to produce. So keep that in mind as well as you're buying those tomato plants. We've got a few, and what you can see, what we're going to do actually this year is also plant them in our weed barrier. Now, this is a product that we had left over from our Bermuda grass eradication. This is a paper weed barrier that we've used landscape staples to hold it down. Now, this is a pretty simple product to install. You just roll it out. This particular one came in 2-foot widths, which is just shy of our bed here. So we're going to go ahead and put some mulch straw to cover that bare soil on the edges. But this will help prevent some of those weeds from growing up. Now, this particular bed, if you remember, we actually tilled in our tillage radish cover crop. So we've got that worked into that soil, and we have our drip irrigation underneath there. Now, be mindful when you're putting in those T-posts of where your irrigation line is. So at this point, our bed is all prepped and we're ready to plant our tomatoes. So to do that, we're just going to cut a little bit of a X in our paper, tear a little bit of a hole, and then we're going to dig some of that soil out or push it out of the way, and then we'll be able to get our plant in there. Now, if you have a transplant that has 2 tomato plants or any plants in that actual pot, you want to make sure to remove one of those so they're not competing. You just need one plant in this area to go ahead and grow up. So we've removed one of our transplants just simply by cutting it, or you can pinch it with your fingers. Now that we've got our tomatoes finished up here, we're going to transition to this other bed over here where we've tilled in our cover crop. So we've got to smooth this out. We're going to lay paper down and pin it down with some landscape staples, and we'll be ready to plant our peppers. So now that we have our peppers planted, you can see that there's a fair bit of wind out here. And so depending on if you've hardened off your vegetables or your transplants, they might not be used to that wind. So we have a couple of techniques that you can do to protect your new transplants as they're going out into the garden. And one of those is to use a simple tomato cage that we've wrapped in saran wrap here. So we're going to go ahead and place this over our pepper plant and feed our pepper plant up into that protected area that's wrapped in plastic. Now, this is going to serve 2 purposes. Not only is it going to protect it from those winds that we have all across our state, but it's also going to help protect it if we have some of those mild nights that we know we can still get even after April 15th. So you can use plastic wrap, or there's another product called Wall of Water, and this simply is a plastic circle that you can put over your plant, and it has several cells that you can fill up with water, and so that creates that greenhouse effect, and it sort of will stand up on its own, or you can fold it to kind of close it up and encase that heat there and protect that plant also. So these are just a couple of ways, because we know that even if you wait till April 15th, a lot of times our Oklahoma temperatures will still dip down, and so these were a couple of techniques to protect your plants and get them established early in the season. At this point, our plants are planted, so we just are going to finish our edging with a little bit of chopped straw and water our plants in, and soon it will be time to harvest.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.